I, 33F, started dating Harvey, 35M, back in August of last year. We met on a dating app. What caught my attention at first was how articulate he was. He was so intelligent. There was just something about the way he spoke. And he listened to me. He listened to what I said. He seemed genuinely interested in what was coming out of my mouth, and he asked me questions. He asked me questions about my life and about my likes and dislikes and my passions and where I saw myself in 5 years. He asked hard questions and we got really deep really fast. And what I mean by that is that there wasn't any beating around the bush. We were upfront and honest right at the start. He said he wasn't interested in just dating someone just to date someone and waste anybody's time. He said he was looking for his forever. I saw this all as green flags. I had some bad relationships in the past and I definitely had a type. I was into guys who treated me like shit and love bombed me and manipulated me and then treated me like trash. A little context about how I was going into this relationship with Harvey and some past trauma. About 10 years ago, I had been engaged before to someone who was originally from a different country. He wanted to get married so that he could essentially stay in the country. We met while I was on some volunteer work in South America and I totally fell head over heels. He actually had a girlfriend at the time that we met and he said that they ended up breaking it off, but they never did. He came back home with me. I ended up getting pregnant but having a miscarriage. He lived with me and was taking my money and sending it back home to that GF he said he broke it off with. And turns out he actually had 3 kids with her already. Well, I ended up finding out, and by the time I found out, he ended up owing me $30,000. Not only that, but he emotionally and physically abused me, which led to the miscarriage. But I truly believe everything happens for a reason, and it was a blessing that never worked out. Then there was a boy that I had grown up with in my hometown. He treated me like absolute garbage and he ended up actually going to prison. Anyways, these are all stories for another time. So that's all to say that I've been burned. And so with Harvey being so kind and honest right from the start, it just screamed green means go to me. I had never met anyone like him before. He was really good at communicating. If I ever had any doubts about anything, he'd say no, we're talking it out and we're not going to bed angry. He'd call me or text me every day. He forced me to work on my own darkness. He forced me to talk it out instead of going inwards and hiding. I was happy. I felt like things were really going good and he was really helping me upgrade in life and be the best version of me. Well, in October, I had noticed that he still had the dating app on his phone because I saw notifications pop up while we were watching a movie and his phone was on the coffee table. This was after we had agreed on going exclusive. He tried to play it off that he just never actually deleted it and he apologized and deleted it right in front of me. So I bought it. But I ended up bringing it up a week later and we got into a big discussion on how this won't work if I don't trust him. He gaslit me. He made me believe that all was okay and that my own insecurities were just projecting onto him and that wasn't fair. It was basically a diss on me conversation, but I still bought it. At the time, it felt liberating and what he was saying made sense to me. Then in December we were planning on going to Las Vegas for New Year's Eve. Well, a couple of weeks before, he cancels on me and tells me that he's not feeling well. We got into a huge fight and he then dropped this ball on me that he said he had an autoimmune disorder that caused his skin to break out into a big red rash and his skin was all inflamed. He also said that when this happened, his body was so sore, he could hardly walk and could hardly eat, sleep, you name it. He wouldn't even let me come and see him during this time. He just took photos to sort of prove that he was telling the truth. He said he didn't have the energy to see anybody. At this time, he also said he would be working from home. Anyways, so I let the Las Vegas thing slide. Luckily we were able to cancel the flights, but instead of a refund, we ended up getting a credit. This will come into play later. So I let that slide. And then there were quite a few times in January to March where we had planned a date and he would bail on me the night before or the day of. He'd say he wasn't feeling well. He'd blame it on his autoimmune disorder. He said he had planned this beautiful Valentine's Day date for me. There's these botanical gardens that you can go to and they offer a moonlit dinner. But come the day of, I was supposed to be picked up at 6 p.m., and at 4:30, he said he wasn't coming because he wasn't feeling well and needed to rest. He said he'd make it up to me later that week. He didn't want to see me at all. Well, later that week, on the day that he had rescheduled, he was supposed to pick me up at 6 p.m., and around 3 o'clock, he texted me and said that something came up at work and that he wouldn't be able to see me. Then we got into a fight about how he wasn't prioritizing our relationship. Then he brings up that he was too ashamed to admit that he couldn't pay for the date and didn't want me to be paying for anything because he's been so sick and has missed too much work. He said that something actually did come up at work with one of his clients and he said that he couldn't pass on this opportunity or else he'd lose his job. He said if he didn't do the work tonight, that it would have severe repercussions. And I was like, well, I can just come over and we can watch a movie or something while you work. And he said that it doesn't work that way. He said also he was too embarrassed to see me and, again, he said he'd make it up to me. He said once this contract was done, he was going to take me out for dinner. And I said we don't have to even go out, we can eat in and have a date inside. He's like you deserve that best, and I can't do that for you right now. And so I was like, are we breaking up then? And he said, no, God no, I just need to finish this job, and then I'll be back in good graces with my clients and my boss. I was like, okay. So then at the beginning of April, it was my birthday and he had planned to take me out. Well, you guessed it, my birthday came and I actually didn't hear from him all day until about 4 p.m. He calls me and he says happy birthday and he's acting all nice and then suddenly drops this bomb that his skin has flared up so he doesn't want to go out. He apologizes and said that we can eat in at his place. I was so eager to see him that day that I just agreed and went over. Well, he complained that his whole body was so inflamed that he wasn't even going to be able to eat. And yeah, he looked red, his skin didn't look great, but I didn't want to eat by myself. It made me feel like shit. Then I kinda had expected him to be huggy and intimate with me, and maybe even get some, if you know what I mean. Nope. Nothing. He sat on one end of the couch. And I sat on the other. And we watched some stupid movie. I got pissed off and I said, why am I even here? And he's like, it's your birthday. I wanted to see you on your birthday. I'm sorry I can't make it special, blah blah blah. And then I'm like, you haven't even touched me. I haven't even gotten a hug. And like I was sort of expecting to be intimate with you tonight since it's my birthday. Then he says, it hurts to move. He said he would kiss me if he could, but it would hurt too bad. And I'm like, really? It would hurt your lips to just keep them there? And then he got mad at me for not understanding. And then he said that he doesn't want to be intimate because his skin condition even affects his downstairs. And I was like, yeah, whatever. So I got up to leave. And then he stops me and brings me this gift bag and he's like, wait, just open this. So I open it all pissed off and it was tickets to Hawaii for the end of April. And then we do end up kissing and making up. But for like 5 minutes because he said that's all he could handle. So I'm like, Harvey, you have to be serious about going to Hawaii, because if you bail on me I'm still going without you and we're over. The moment you text me or call me to bail will be the last time you hear from me. And he goes, yeah, that won't happen. This is what I've been waiting to give back to you. You deserve the world. I'm so sorry I can't be what you want and what you need. Blah blah. So I'm like, no, I'm serious. If you bail, I'm going, and we're over. And he's like, okay, deal. So literally the 5 days before we're supposed to go to the airport and leave for Hawaii. He texts me and he's like, I'm so sorry, please don't hate me, blah blah, don't leave me, I'm just not feeling well, I can't go in the state that I'm in. My skin is on fire. I'm sorry to text you like this, but it just hurts to move my mouth and hurts to speak. He's like, I lost my job, I probably have to move in with my dad, I feel like dump, I'm so sorry. Well, I text him back and I'm like, I'm going anyways, and this is the last time you'll hear from me. We're done. And I meant it. I was like, don't try to contact me. Don't text me. Don't call me. And I spent 15 hours on hold with the airline we booked for to switch over the ticket to my best friend Sienna. So then I end up blocking him because he won't stop contacting me. I went to Hawaii with my bestie and I spent the first few days and the whole flight crying. Then I get this text from a number I don't recognize. It ends up being Harvey. He's like, I know you asked me not to contact you, but I'm just so sorry and you mean the world to me, and gives me this huge sob story. He's like, when you come back, things are going to be different. Well, I bought into it. I felt lonely. I was in paradise and I missed him. I even ended up getting him a little souvenir. I know. I'm weak. Anyways, I end up getting home and he comes over and his face and skin looked totally fine. As if he had made his flare up all up. Anyways, I chose not to say anything. I gave him his souvenir. We have a big long talk about how he's not going to let his disorder get in the way of us. And then he tries to insinuate that he doesn't want to go and live with his dad and he doesn't know where he's going to stay, and he's suggesting that his one chair would look good in my living room. And how my place is so cozy and inviting. But I'm not budging. I'm just like, hey, I like my stuff where it is. And he tries to rub my leg and start up something and I'm pushing his hand away and I get up to make a tea. And he's asking me if everything is okay? And I'm like, yeah, I'm just hurt. And he's like, you're going to let me live on the street? And then I'm like, whoa. Where did this come from? And he's like, well, you aren't saying anything. You haven't even asked where I plan on staying. And I'm like, you told me before I left on a trip that we were supposed to be on together that you had planned on living with your father. And he said, I can't go back and live with my dad. I'll lose my mind. And I'm like, well, you can't stay here. I understand that your autoimmune disorder makes it hard to do daily activities and to work sometimes, but that's not my responsibility. You're so flaky. Why would I want to live with someone who is as flaky as you? And then he gets up and he walks over to me and he's like, this disorder is out of my control. And I'm like, yeah. And he's like, why are you blaming me? Why can't you help me out there? And I'm like, you need to help yourself. You constantly bail on me. I can't trust you to pay bills or clean up after yourself in my space. I own this house. It just comes down to the fact that I can't trust you. And then he starts calling me names and crying and saying that I'm making him homeless and he's got a dog and he doesn't know what he's going to do with his dog. And then I'm like, this really is not my problem and not my responsibility. Then I tell him to get out of my house and he's literally sobbing and hyperventilating. And he keeps calling me all night. Sends me about 200 text messages. I end up blocking him again. But he ends up calling and texting me from different numbers. And some of them are unknown. So I just turned my phone off. Well, the next day, I'm at work, I'm a receptionist, and he comes into work right at 9 a.m. when the office is open to the public, and he has a pair of scissors in his hand and he's holding them up to his neck and he's crying and screaming and he falls to the floor right in front of my desk and he's saying things like, "I'll end it all right here in front of you and for all the world to see." I call the police and they come and arrest him. Then my boss calls me into the office before the end of the day and she lets me go. I lost my job. She says we can't have stuff like this happening here, and she said I put people in danger and they're unfortunately going to have to let me go. Well, that job was my lifeline. I literally have no idea what I'm going to do. I'm still $20,000 in debt because of my ex-fiancée. I'm pissed. And honestly in shock. I never imagined anything like this could happen to me. But this guy has totally ruined my life. I wrote this huge thing about him on Don't Date Him. Now I'm here sharing this on Reddit. I'm so done. Not only that, but I got a restraining order against him. I've also had to change my number. It's been about 10 days and I haven't heard from him or anything. Thank goodness. Hopefully he got the hint. So yeah. I have bad taste. But let this be my last lesson. Update, I just got off the phone with Harvey's dad. Apparently Harvey was never paying for the place he was staying at. His dad was this whole time. And he said that Harvey doesn't have an autoimmune disorder, but he definitely does have a skin condition. He said that he had given Harvey a hard deadline to find a proper job, which he had also lied to me about. Apparently he was just working really odd jobs here and there is some techie doing some sketchy shit and refused to get a serious job. He said once the deadline came and went, he cut Harvey off and wouldn't allow him to move back home and was forcing him to figure it out on his own. Very interesting. Velp. Dodge that bullet. Hardly. Now on to the next story. Story 2. Caught my long-distance GF at college having sex with a classmate in the locker room, so I recorded a video and sent it to the dean, which got them kicked out of school. I, 27 male, met my girlfriend, 26 female, in high school and we had been together since our senior year. I moved around a lot growing up, so I transferred to my girlfriend's high school senior year. We hit it off and we had practically been inseparable ever since. When it came time to go to college we initially went to separate schools. She wanted to study nursing, and I was studying engineering. During the first semester, I wasn't fitting in with my curriculum. I was generally unhappy with the school that I'd chosen. My girlfriend was the one to suggest that I consider transferring to her school. I took the tours and I spoke to some of the students and professors, and it seemed like it would be a good fit for me. So, I transferred for the spring semester and got everything started there. We stayed together all through college and we even moved in together after. Both of us got jobs right after school. I was working for a tech company and she was working in the pediatric ward of a hospital. After a year, her job had taken a toll on her and she was very depressed. She didn't like to talk about it, but I couldn't even imagine a lot of the things that she saw in a pediatric ward. She told me that she had been interested in going back to school so she could teach instead. We both thought it was the best way for her to still do what she loved, but without having to sacrifice her mental health. She applied to several schools, and she got into almost all of them. One of the schools that she applied to was one of the top in the industry. It was prestigious and her getting in was a big deal. She only really applied on a whim, but once she was accepted we both knew that was where she had to go. The only difficulty with the decision was that that school was in a different state. I couldn't move because of work, so we decided to give long distance a try. She rented an apartment in the city, finding another student enrolled in the program that she could share it with. We had planned on visiting each other often and having video calls so we could stay in touch. For the first couple of months of the program, everything was going great with us. I hadn't had the time to go and visit her because I was busy with my own work, but we video chatted several times a week and we were texting each other all the time. However, I started to notice some changes in our relationship. At first, I just assumed that it was because of the distance. I figured there must have been some adjustment period that we needed. But eventually, she stopped wanting to video chat so much because she was saying that she was slammed with schoolwork. I understood what she was saying. It was hard to adjust to, but I wanted to make sure she was still keeping up with her schoolwork without distraction. When she first enrolled in the program we were told that her fall semester would end in the middle of December. Then her spring semester was supposed to start in the middle of January. I had been looking forward to our month-long break together. It has been a very long time since I saw my girlfriend and I wanted to spend the holidays with her. The week before she was supposed to return home, she called me and told me that there had been a change of plans. Apparently, a job that she had on campus offered a position over the break that would pay more than what she made during the semester. Because we were renting 2 apartments for her to go to school, we figured it would be the smart thing for her to stay and work. The week passed and I was missing her more than ever. One night, I was scrolling through her social media page just so I could look at pictures of her and I noticed somebody was commenting on all of her posts. When I say all of them, I mean all of them. My girlfriend was very attractive, and she had a substantial following on Instagram. It wasn't anything along the lines of being an influencer, but she would get people she didn't know messaging her all the time. However, the person commenting seemed friendly with her. She hadn't posted any pictures of him on her page, but there were pictures of both of them together on his. They were pictures that could have been two friends hanging out, but at the same time, it looked like it could be more. From what I could tell, they were alone in most of them. When I looked at some of the dates of the post, I felt my heart break a little. In an effort to hurt myself even more, I opened my text messages with my girlfriend and looked for some dates that she told me she couldn't video chat because she was busy with school work. I compared them to some of the posts on his page, and they matched. She had lied to me and told me that she was busy with schoolwork so she could go and do things with this man. Right away, I knew something was off. If she wanted to hang out with a friend, I would have understood. But she didn't even tell me about this guy. There had to be something more going on with them. The next time I talked to her, I confronted her about it. I asked her who he was and why she ever told me about him and why she lied about being busy. She told me that it hadn't crossed her mind to tell me about every friend that she had. I tried to explain to her that it was different because this was a man, but she told me that it wasn't because he was gay. I froze when she said that. I felt like I was just silly for even thinking something could have happened. A few weeks passed and I decided that I was just going to surprise my girlfriend for the holidays. It had been too long since we'd seen each other and I wanted to visit her. I didn't mention anything about it. In fact, I told her that I was planning on going to my parents so she wouldn't assume anything. I got to her apartment and I tried to buzz the door so she could let me in, but there was no answer. I waited for some time, but I started to think that maybe surprising her wasn't the best idea. It was freezing outside, so I made my way to her job. I figured I could surprise her there and then grab her keys so I could wait in the apartment for her. She worked at a student center, but because there weren't many students on campus, she was supposed to be doing clerical work and organizing things. When I arrived at the building, I walked through the door and looked around for her everywhere. But I couldn't find her. Eventually, I ran into another worker and I asked her where my girlfriend was. She told me that she was in one of the locker rooms cleaning with the man I saw on Instagram. She pointed me in the direction and I made my way over there. My heart was racing because I was so excited to see my girlfriend again. As soon as I opened the door to the room, all of the excitement disappeared. I heard a shower running and various moans and giggles coming from the direction of it. Unmistakably, it was my girlfriend's voice. I heard a man's voice whispering and telling her to be quiet too. I didn't know if I should go forward or not. Did I really need to see what was happening? I was frozen for a moment while I tried to decide. I was shocked that she would cheat on me, and even more so that she was doing it in public. My girlfriend had never been someone who was interested in stuff like that. It was unlike her. It hit me while I was standing there that they were on school property doing something they definitely shouldn't have been, while they were supposed to be working nonetheless. I didn't know if I would ever do anything with it, but I thought I should get evidence of it. I pulled out my phone and recorded as I walked closer and got both of them in the frame. I recorded for about 10 seconds while they both stood in the shower having sex. Neither of them even knew that I was there. I walked out and left the building without saying anything else. I considered my options from there. I wanted to tell her that she could just stay in the city and break up with her, but that didn't seem like enough. I looked online at her school's website and found the contact information for the dean of students. I emailed them letting them know that I caught 2 of the students engaging in explicit activities in a public setting in a school building. At first, I got an out-of-office email. But a few days later I got an official response from the dean. They wanted to set up a time to video chat with me so they could get more information. In the days that I was waiting, I decided to text my girlfriend and tell her that it was over between us. She seemed confused, but I told her that I knew what happened and that I wanted her to be out at the apartment completely. I packed up her things and her sister contacted me to set up a time to come and get them. After the holidays I had my meeting with the dean where I showed her the evidence that I collected and I gave her the names of the students. She told me that they would be reprimanded for their actions. 2 days later, I got a furious phone call from my ex-girlfriend telling me that I had ruined her life. Apparently, both of them were expelled from the university. She was forced to leave the school, and so was her new boyfriend. Her sister tried calling me and telling me that I was a jerk for what I did, but I just hung up the phone. Now, I'm trying to focus on moving on and being happy again with other relationships, but it is much harder than I thought.